India's 78 years nuclear journey. Who kept India safe? India is safe not because of one person, but years of hard work. It is the result of decades of careful statecraft, scientific perseverance, and political courage exercised by multiple generations of leaders. The security architecture of modern India did not emerge overnight, nor did it arise from the mission vision of a single contemporary leader. India's emergence as a nuclear state represents one of the most complex strategic journeys undertaken by any post-colonial nation. India's security was built by decades of statecraft, not a single moment or leader. Unlike the established nuclear powers, which built their arsenals during the early Cold War under conditions of immense industrial capacity, India had to pursue its path while facing technological embargoes, diplomatic pressure, and economic constraints. The achievement belongs not to one government or one ideology, but to a continuum of leadership stretching across decades. The scientific foundations. Soon after independence, political leadership of India under Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and pioneering physicist Homi Jehangir Bhabha were convinced that nuclear science would be central to both energy security and national sovereignty. A nation that imports knowledge remains dependent. Through institutions such as the Atomic Energy Commission and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, the leadership established a scientific ecosystem capable of long-term research despite scarce resources. Their vision was simple but profound. India must master the nuclear fuel cycle itself, rather than remain dependent on external powers. This wisdom has proved extremely important for India's security and political independence, considering the contemporary countries like Iran is facing to get nuclear fuel. The approach reflected a deeper philosophical tradition in Indian strategic thought, the belief that political autonomy ultimately rests on technological self-reliance. The idea was not merely industrial growth, but intellectual sovereignty. A nation that produces knowledge controls its destiny. In a world structured by power hierarchies, a nation that lacks scientific capacity remains permanently vulnerable. Had the foundation of scientific temperament not laid out in those early years, India would have been struggling to gain dominance like other developing countries without nuclear power. These institutions were built to support this very philosophy. Nehru often described these institutions as temples of modern India. Atomic and Nuclear Science 1. Atomic Energy Commission of India, 1948. Created to direct India's nuclear research and energy policy. 2. Bhabha Atomic Research Centre, 1954. Originally Atomic Energy Establishment Trombay, India's premier nuclear research facility, led by Homi Jehangir Bhabha. 3. Department of Atomic Energy, 1954. Placed directly under the Prime Minister to emphasize strategic importance. Space Research Foundations. 4. Indian National Committee for Space Research, 1962. Established under Vikram Sarabhai. This later evolved into Indian Space Research Organisation. Defence and Strategic Technology. 5. Defence Research and Development Organisation, 1958. Formed by merging existing defence science bodies to develop indigenous military technology. Council of Scientific and Industrial Research Laboratories. Although Council of Scientific and Industrial Research existed before independence, most of its major laboratories were built and expanded during Nehru's era. Important laboratories include 6. National Physical Laboratory India, 1950. 7. National Chemical Laboratory, 1950. 8. Central Electrochemical Research Institute, 1948. 9. Central Mechanical Engineering Research Institute, 1958. 10. National Aerospace Laboratories, 1959. These laboratories formed the foundation of India's applied industrial research. Institutes of Technology. 11. Indian Institute of Technology Kharagpur, 1951. 12. Indian Institute of Technology Bombay, 1958. 13. Indian Institute of Technology Madras, 1959. 14. Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur, 1959. 15. Indian Institute of Technology Delhi, 1961. These institutions were created with international collaborations from the Soviet Union, Germany, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Medical and Scientific Education. 16. All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, 1956. conceived as India's premier medical research and teaching institution. 17. University Grants Commission India, 1956. Created to regulate and strengthen higher education and research. Advanced research institutions. 18. Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Though founded in 1945, it received major state support under Nehru and became the center of India's advanced physics and mathematics research. 19. Indian Statistical Institute. Expanded significantly under Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis during Nehru's planning era. All these and other supporting institutions were part of a deliberate national strategy. Silent but bold move. After China's first nuclear test in October of 1964, then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri confronted a decisive shift in India's security environment and moved quietly but firmly to recalibrate policy. In parliamentary statements and internal deliberations of November 1964-65, he acknowledged that India could not ignore the strategic implications of a nuclear-armed neighbor, even while maintaining its public commitment to peaceful uses of atomic energy. We cannot ignore the implications of developments that have taken place in our neighborhood. Government is examining the situation carefully. Under his direction, the Atomic Energy Commission of India was encouraged to accelerate research, and resources were incrementally aligned to strengthen technological capacity. While no formal declaration of weaponization was made, archival references to Lok Sabha debates and policy discussions of the period indicate that Shastri authorized exploratory work that kept the nuclear option open. Our scientists are competent, and the country will not lag behind in developing its scientific capabilities. This calibrated approach, restraint in rhetoric but seriousness in preparation, helped create the policy continuity that later enabled India's eventual nuclear assertion. The Indira Gandhi moment. The first decisive political assertion of this strategic philosophy came under Indira Gandhi. On the 18th of May 1974, India conducted its first nuclear test at Pokhran, codenamed Smiling Buddha. The test was presented as a peaceful nuclear explosion, yet its strategic significance was unmistakable. At the time, the international environment was hostile. The global nuclear order was governed by the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, which recognized only 5 nuclear weapon states: the United States, the Soviet Union, China, France, and the United Kingdom. India had refused to sign the treaty because it institutionalized nuclear inequality. Compare it with today's government. They are signing agreements giving away economic sovereignty to European powers and America. There are import agreements even for those items which are crucial for poverty alleviations of millions of Indian. Hence, conducting the Pokhran test therefore required not only scientific competence, but also political resolve. India, of course, faced the risk of sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Yet she proceeded, arguing that national security could not be permanently subordinated to international pressure. Her decision placed India among the world's nuclear-capable nations and signaled that strategic autonomy would remain a guiding principle of Indian foreign policy. Building credible deterrence. A nuclear device alone does not constitute a deterrent. Deterrence requires reliable delivery systems and technological credibility. That phase of India's journey is inseparable from the work of APJ Abdul Kalam. As a leading figure in the Defense Research and Development Organization, Kalam spearheaded India's indigenous missile development programs. Systems such as the Agni missile series and Prithvi missile transformed India's strategic posture by providing reliable delivery mechanisms for nuclear warheads. Kalam worked during a period when India faced severe technology denial regimes. Western nations imposed restrictions that prevented the transfer of advanced missile technology. Instead of halting India's progress, these sanctions compelled Indian scientists to innovate domestically. Kalam's leadership demonstrated that technological resilience often emerges precisely under conditions of constraint. The quiet preparation. During the early 1990s, another crucial phase unfolded under the leadership of P.V. Narasimha Rao. Rao authorized preparations for a nuclear test in 1995 and quietly advanced the technical groundwork required for a full demonstration of nuclear capability. Although the test was ultimately postponed due to international surveillance and pressure, Rao's decisions were strategically decisive. They ensured that India's scientific establishment remained ready to act when the political moment arrived. In retrospect, the groundwork laid during his tenure made the next stage possible. the 1998 Declaration. That moment came in May 1998, when then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee authorized the Pokhran II tests. These detonations openly declared India a nuclear weapon state. The decision invited immediate sanctions from several Western nations, yet it also transformed India's strategic position. Vajpayee's approach combined firmness with diplomatic restraint. Soon after the tests, India articulated a doctrine of credible minimum deterrence and a no-first-use policy. The message was clear. India's nuclear capability was defensive, not expansionist. The moral tone of Vajpayee's diplomacy mattered. His speeches in parliament and international forums emphasized restraint, responsibility, and dialogue. Even as India asserted strategic autonomy, it projected itself as a stable and responsible power. Ending nuclear isolation. India's nuclear status, however, remained constrained by international restrictions until the diplomatic breakthrough achieved by Dr. Manmohan Singh. His government negotiated the landmark India-United States Civil Nuclear Agreement, which effectively ended decades of nuclear isolation. In August 2008, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, approved India's safeguards arrangement, allowing the country to participate in global civil nuclear commerce. This agreement opened access to nuclear fuel, advanced reactor technology, and international partnerships. Dr. Singh's diplomacy required delicate balancing. India had to reassure the world that its nuclear program would remain responsible while preserving strategic independence. The agreement demonstrated how diplomacy can transform technological capability into global legitimacy. Collective achievement seen in historical perspective. India's nuclear status is not the creation of any single government. It represents the cumulative effort of scientists, engineers, diplomats, and political leaders across ideological divides. Nations endure because institutions carry forward long-term goals. From Nehru's philosophy to Bhabha's scientific expertise. From Indira Gandhi's political courage to Kalam's technological innovation. From Rao's strategic preparation to Vajpayee's decisive declaration to Manmohan Singh's diplomatic breakthrough. Each stage built upon the previous one. This continuity reflects a deeper tradition in Indian statecraft. Nations endure not because of individual personalities, but because institutions carry forward long-term strategic goals. Remembering the real journey. National pride should arise from accurate memory, rather than manufactured mythology. In an age of rapid information flows and partisan media ecosystems, preserving historical clarity becomes a civic and patriotic responsibility. Democracies function best when citizens recognize the difference between political narrative and documented history. It is a reminder that nations are not built by slogans or grand spectacle in stadiums, but by the quiet accumulation of decisions made by leaders who understood both the weight of history and the responsibility of power.
So, that was yet another Expert X presentation. Please subscribe us for more in-depth analysis. Thank you.